And I happened to see her and decided I had to get to know who she was.
This, of course, was in high school, and I didn't realize that he saw my smile. He said afterwards it was a smile that attracted him.
I asked a mutual friend of ours to introduce me.
She wanted me to go here and there so that we would coincidentally meet, which it never seemed to work out.
The rest is history. That was 53 years ago.
I have been blessed with good health, but it hurts sometimes more to see someone else, go through something.
I guess things were pretty smooth up until 2000.
Yeah, the cancer thing was a big thing, too.
But there was a little fold down in the duodenum that the doctor didn't think looked quite right. So he took a slice of it, and turned out I had cancer. And as the doctor pointed out to me, he said, there was good news and bad news. The good news was they caught it very early. And the bad news was it was in a very tough spot.
When the doctor said it was a difficult operation, even as late as the 60s, people were surviving the surgery, but they were not surviving afterwards because they couldn't get the whole system to work.
They removed the duodenum. They replaced it with intestines. But they also removed about 2/3 of my stomach and part of my pancreas.
Because they took so much of the pancreas, that's why he became a diabetic then, because the pancreas doesn't have enough for it to do the work that it should do.
And as I tell my wife, some people age gracefully. I guess I'm not going to, because then in 2005, I fell off a ladder and smashed my elbow. I now have a titanium left elbow.
The fact that his head hit the lawn and everything else was on the sidewalk, I was like, wow.
And then in 2007...
they admitted him right away, but they misdiagnosed him. They thought he had a partially obstructed bowel.
I ended up having a section of my small intestine die.
They did an ultrasound, and they saw that pooling of liquid, and they assumed it was blood.
I think it was 5 days or 6 days between the time that I went in and the time that they actually did the surgery. That's
when they realized the bowel had been perforated, and it was just full of peritonitis. And I remember the doctor talking about it afterwards when he came into the consult room. He used the word stench. It was just terrible. And we heard this from a nurse afterwards that he did his thing, and then he just told his team, he said, oh, just sew him up. He's not going to make it.
I was in the hospital for 7 weeks.
A 0 to 1% chance of living.
September 16th, about 4 minutes to midnight, I was lying in my bed, and there was a small spot on the wall next to my clock. And from that spot on the wall, I could hear the sounds of prayer, just a cacophony of prayer.
That Sunday they sang, "Everlasting Arms," and He will take care of you. It was the most powerful thing.
And a voice that said, I'll be with you through this.
There were a lot of setbacks, especially with the swallowing and the eating.
I had an ostomy.
Some days was harder than other days.
So I had to learn how to use a feeding tube, which they put in my nose.
As long as he was progressing, that was wonderful. And then he'd have the setbacks.
I couldn't separate food and water from breathing.
They'd give him food, and then it's like, okay, back to just water. Then it was back to just ice chips.
So I had to relearn how to breathe and how to swallow. And that was extremely frustrating. If you've ever tried pureed hot dog.
Even in the low times. And, especially after he had that vision and the Lord told him that he would come through. I mean, all his swallowing problems and all that stuff came after that. And so there were still hard times, but we just always knew that, you know, that he was going to come through.
You know, there's just no question beyond a shadow of a doubt. I know my Redeemer lives, and I know he's with me every day.
Beyond a shadow of a doubt, my Redeemer lives. Absolutely. For sure.